Thank you for coming. I see a lot of new faces, a lot of familiar faces. This is pretty much what we have in our growing concern here with Knowledge Aware Engineering Conference. It's a those of you who are veterans of the conference, it's a very informal conference. So please feel free, raise your hand, let's talk, let's interact. This conference has been and will continue to be about an exchange of ideas around this concept of knowledge aware engineering. So it is a thing. Knowledge aware engineering is become something because of these ideas that have come from a large group of people interested in improving how knowledge is managed in technical environments, and it will continue to be that. And we hope to grow this to be the primary forum for that exchange of ideas. From time to time, we might mention this thing called Auros. Some of you may know that is the technology that we provide that is a solution for knowledge aware engineering. So that's pretty much how it goes. At this time, I'd like to introduce Brittany Satterfield. Brittany, can you raise your hand? Okay. She is the person to go to if you have any concerns about the conference and suggestions for next year. We're very eager to improve the way this conference happens to be useful for those that participate. And so she's very eager to hear from you. And I thank her for organizing this year's conference as well. So thank you, Brittany. The conference has a fairly interesting format in that it's evolved. And you'll hear us talk a lot about knowledge aware engineering be a bottom-up kind of thing. And this event itself is a bottom-up kind of thing. It started as an informal group of people talking about using Auros and why this technology and what are the primary elements and why is it so different. And hopefully you all leave here today understanding why these ideas are different and why they're powerful. And then we had started to attract people that were new and just wanted to learn, and we were jumping right into it, and people were saying, well, we need a primer, we need to understand more about the concepts so that we can then better understand what people are talking about. So then we went from a day format to a day and a half format. So this half day today is really about learning and bringing everybody up to the same speed on what these concepts are. So those of you that are new know that today will be a good day to learn, to come up to speed on what these concepts are, and hopefully, again, we're convincing you why this is such a good idea and why you should be interested. And for those of you that are experts or have great deals of familiarity and have actually contributed to these concepts, hopefully the things that the Auros AE team and Auros Knowledge Systems have done for you today will show you examples of how you can take these ideas and efficiently propagate them to your peers back at your company. Right? So whether you're an expert or not, this half day that is new in the format should be useful. Those of you who were here last year, we did a half day. We do have some changes up to the regime, and hopefully we're keeping it fresh and interesting for you. Tonight, we do have a reception and raffle like we did last year. Everybody is invited. The raffle's for an iWatch, so please do come. And to win, you have to submit the surveys for the conference. So that's the one catch for that. Tomorrow is a full day of end-user kinds of presentations. We're very lucky to be supported by some awesome group of people that share these ideas in knowledge-aware engineering and are working within their organizations to bring these ideas to the point where they're generating tremendous value. Some new names in that group, and some as well as some people that you've probably seen here in the past if you're a veteran of the conference. So thank you to those presenters. We'll talk more about that schedule tomorrow. We do have a hashtag, because if you go to a conference, everybody has to have a hashtag. So if you do tweet or do like to do social media, please do use the Auros Knowledge Aware Engineering Conference hashtag. The venue obviously has changed. I'm a little bit stuck in my ways. I really loved the Management Education Center that we used last year. How many people were here last year? Yeah, so that's a great venue, right? So Brittany and the team here convinced us that we needed to expand a little bit. Our group actually did outgrow that classroom, and now we're here at the Cobo Center. Just a couple points of interest for you in using the facility. You might have already seen it, but the restrooms are out these two exit doors, and are just right around here on the left. They're right here, convenient for us. The breaks will just be outside these two exit doors, so all you got to do is walk outside these two doors for the breaks. And that's really it. It's a fairly simple facility layout. little more housekeeping here is how many people routinely go to conferences? Let's see a show of hands. Okay, so these conference apps have become very popular because if you want to do things like poll the audience to get a real-time interaction with the group of people, they're really good. And so I've already done 2 polls with hands, and you can see that it'd be very useful. So what I'm going to ask you to do, because all these conferences do it, and I myself recently came from the PLM conference that I barely survived. And I actually used the app. I didn't want to put it on my phone, but I used it because it was very convenient. I found somebody I wanted to talk to, and they were listed in the conference app, and I was able to contact them through an instant message, right? So it was really cool. Now we're going to do some cool stuff with our app here. So it's not malware, it's not spyware. So I'm asking you, I'll just show you what kinds of things we're going to do. The agenda's on there, the abstracts of all the presentations are on there. We're going to do some polling questions and where we can all real-time see the answers, which will be really nice. You guys can ask questions and we can accumulate them and answer them after presentations with the app. And and the surveys, which are really important to the livelihood of this conference, are also on there, and as well as bios of the speakers. So another poll: how many people have the app? Oh, you guys are good. So if you haven't got it so far, please do. I'm going to give you a few seconds here. Go to the App Store or Google Play and just search for either Auros or KAE Conference, and it should be the first or second item. There's this very lightweight registration process so that we can communicate with you. And if you're an Android user, the app comes out a little weird in that the top of the screen real estate is wasted. So you kind of got to scroll in the bottom. The layout is a lot better on iPhone. So just a little warning there. So please do download the app if you can to interact with us. Today's agenda specifically, I've been talking to a few of you who have registered for the conference as you came in. The format is similar but different than last year. So the first thing we're going to do is a welcome message, which I am now in the middle of. And then we're going to get into an overview, which will be primarily driven by a couple key videos that you can deploy back at your organizations to help other people understand the concepts. We're going to go into an interactive exercise as the third thing we're going to do today, and this is all new. So we're very eager to see how you guys feel this exercise work and how well it conveys the concepts in knowledge-aware engineering. And then the fourth thing we're going to do is the Farbulator narrative, which is really a better way of doing demos. We started off a few years ago doing demos, and people got, it's a lot of demo to get through the whole thing. So we've invented this fictitious company called the Farbulator Company, and it'll be more of a series of demos in a narrative style within the context of this fictitious company called the Farbulator Company. And then finally, we'll have the evening event. So hopefully you will all join us for that. Okay, so the first thing now, before we get into the knowledge-aware engineering overview, what we'd like to do is try out the app with a first polling question. The first polling question, Brittany, is which one is it? Well, here it is. So you should actually get a message on your app. Did everybody show me hands if you got a message on your app? All right, people got the message. All right, so let's see what we get. So we're going to give you just 30 seconds here. Can you respond? And this is a really important question here as we go forward too. So, what best describes your level of familiarity with? If you had a lot of coffee, that's hard to say. With knowledge-aware engineering. So can you please submit your responses now? Brittany, do you want to go to the second question too? Ron? Technology's killing us. Is everybody having trouble, or is it's working for you guys? Slim, it's because of you. No. Is it Android that's having trouble, or is it? Yes. The Android. Okay, we're going to find the cross section of familiarity among iPhone users. All right, can we see the results, please? All right, so let's see. The results are familiar but still learning for the most part. A couple experts, excellent. A couple say what's. I like to see it. That's not too surprising, right? So there's a fairly wide dispersion of familiarity with the concept knowledge-aware engineering. And hopefully we can change these bars around a little bit later. So I think, Joe, you were saying last year that you wanted to see some kind of interactive polling, so we took your suggestion, right? Is that true? Yeah. Okay, let's do another question. One more question, just to get warmed up. The next question is, what industry are you from? So can you take that question? Android still having troubles? Yeah. Okay. Do we have the results, Brittany? Yep. Automotive and transportation heavy. So we do have some oil and gas, some heavy equipment, others. So I wanted to ask this question not because I didn't know what the answer was going to be. We're here in Detroit. I myself was a design and release automotive engineer at one point in my career, so I am extremely familiar, as all of you are, with automotive. But I do think and do anticipate that as we go maybe next year and the year after, that this chart will begin to change and more balance out. As somebody who watches these kinds of technologies and these kinds of industries and these kinds of solutions, I do see the interest growing outside of automotive and would expect a fairly significant amount of interest from other industries in the knowledge-aware technique in the short term. So right now, based on our location and how this group started, it's automotive specific, or not specific, but automotive centric. I do expect this to change quite quickly now. Okay, let's just get back. All right, so as a couple people asked, so what is this knowledge-aware engineering anyway? So, okay, fantastic, we're right on time. There's a lot of different ways to start to break us into the concept of knowledge-aware engineering. So let's start with just a couple statements and see how this stuff grabs you. It's about creating intelligent technical memory. So technical memory is a term we borrowed from our friends at General Motors. And we've added this idea of intelligence to it. And there's really good reasons, because once we start to have ideas about how to manage knowledge through information technology, there is a lot of benefit of intelligence. Now, everybody's talking about AI, everybody's talking about machine learning and business intelligence and analytics. And these concepts, once you digitize and start to treat knowledge more as an asset that can be communicated digitally, not thinking about documents, and this is where we'll get there, we can start to really emphasize the idea of intelligence in front of that in technical memory. Now, in the Auros product portfolio, we already have started to have some very significant progress on the intelligence part of this. Tomorrow, in What's New in 8, you're going to see some pretty cool stuff in the intelligence systems engineering world, but we also have, and some people already know, we already have a long-standing on the intelligence side. On the softer side, there's this idea of continuous learning and effortless recall. Now, tomorrow I'm going to talk a lot more about effortless recall and why that's an important concept. But in general, this is the main ideas of knowledge-aware engineering, and the technique itself, how we achieve these things, is really what we're going to be talking about over the next 2 days, right? Today and tomorrow. And another way to sum it up, and I know my friend Tim Glau here from Caterpillar was also a big fan of this term, and Tim, I think this came from APQC, the term knowledge in the flow of work, right? As engineers, right, which from the last poll we saw most of us are, we're used to thinking of knowledge as this document repository, this lessons learned database that we left our job and went over and tried to find something useful, didn't find anything useful, walked away and said, gee, I'm not going to put anything in there. It's just, you know, and it's an extra job. Who wants to do that? But once you can start to place knowledge in the flow of work, which is a key concept of knowledge-aware engineering, it's different. All the games are changed here, right? So you add all this together, effortless recall, organizational learning, in the flow of work, you get an entirely different approach for what knowledge-aware engineering is. And I'm going to sum it up in a couple other ways. In the end, it's a unified approach for independent stakeholders to communicate expertise that's replacing those documents, right? And this communication is really important. And in the end, knowledge-aware engineering is about transforming that extra process, that when we said go to the lessons learned database or go to do this checklist, that's the extra process. Can we transform that extra process to be, that no one wants to do, into be the way that stakeholders are communicating? It's not a new thing now. You're not saying do this extra thing. It's now the mode of communication. And if we can make just the normal mode of communication be that which creates technical memory and an effortless recall, that's the goal list. So now it's not an extra thing, oh, hey, you got to go convince your organization to do knowledge management. No, no. You start to develop these communication channels, you capture knowledge, you communicate this way, and you add the intelligence on top of it. It's a whole new world. Now, we do have customers that are getting very close to pulling this off. Totally different idea. You got to think about it differently, and it's not about documents, okay? And it's not about databases. It's something very different. So we'll talk about it, and hopefully through these exercises today, you'll start to understand why and feel why it is so different than that kind of paradigm. Those of you who know me know that I am a firm believer that you've got CAD, you've got PLM, you've got your CAE tool sets, and these are, as engineers, these are what we think about. This is what we do. These are our tools. These knowledge tools, they're going to be just as important to the future of engineering as those other tools. I'm absolutely certain of it. But, you know, I've got a stake in the game. Okay. So the fundamental concepts, Brian, how are we doing on time? Perfect. I got 10 minutes. I got 3-minute videos. So I'm going to give you that was all about value and what it is at an abstract feel-good level. Now we're going to explain how it actually happens, okay? So instead of me explaining it, the team and I have worked very hard this past year putting together 3 videos that lay out some fundamental concepts, how this job gets done. How do we ditch documents? How do we communicate through tools? How do we add intelligence? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a video and then 2 primary concepts. These videos are 3 minutes each. So let's go ahead and do that. I have to change my settings here. Okay, so the first one's a bit of an overview. My man Evan over there is on the ball with the lights. Thank you, Evan.
If you are not familiar with knowledge aware, that's okay. We get asked about it all the time. The concept is actually very simple. Knowledge aware is the capability to precisely provision knowledge into the flow of work. This technique for managing knowledge has emerged and proven itself across a variety of industries. So how does it work? Basically, knowledge aware is comprised of methods and tools to provision knowledge and to make the knowledge active. Traditional approaches to manage knowledge resemble a library. Picture a library and all of the information available. This passive approach puts all of the burden on the individual. It relies on the individual to find, sort, and interpret valuable knowledge on their own. Not only is this highly inefficient, it's also ineffective. Think of it this way. If you were embarking on an expedition to ascend to the peak of K2, the ascent would be broken into small, manageable segments, each segment having its own set of unique challenges. Knowing what is involved, would you attempt such a risky expedition without the specific knowledge, experience, and equipment needed? Following the traditional library approach to this expedition would be like dragging everything that you could possibly need up the mountain from the get-go. The right time and right place provisioning is the only effective means for achieving the summit. Like the expedition, your projects have a summit, a goal, and require timely knowledge and experience to succeed. With today's technology, we're capable of dynamically provisioning projects with just right nuggets of knowledge, ready for reuse. We already provision projects with budgets, people, and other resources, and we need to provision knowledge just as precisely. While the provisioning concept of knowledge aware is simple, it does require some new tools and technologies to pull it off. Chief among these new technologies are the knowledge packet and the assessment control. Owned and maintained by communities, the knowledge packet is a structured, granular unit of know-how, purpose-built for efficient capture, reuse, and provisioning of active knowledge. The knowledge packet replaces documents and databases as a means of knowledge capture and activation. The assessment control is a comprehensive toolkit used to efficiently apply collections of knowledge packets within the flow of work. Assessment controls automate the connection between knowledge packets and the flow of work. Collectively, the knowledge packet and assessment control allow the systematic provisioning of knowledge into the flow of work. With the knowledge packet and the assessment control, your processes will become knowledge-aware. As opposed to traditional approaches, the use of knowledge packets and assessments is continuous throughout your process. This continuous engagement consolidates and improves the current methods that experts and stakeholders use to communicate with their project teams. Digital design, sign-off review, systems engineering, verification planning, product feasibility, and lessons learned are just a few of your existing processes that will benefit from the knowledge-aware technique. The knowledge-aware technique will improve, optimize, and unify your knowledge across the enterprise.
Evan, I'm going to go right into the next video so we can... So the next video goes a little deeper into this idea of a knowledge packet. This is one that I'll tell you a little story about the term knowledge packet. When we first started developing these ideas and technologies, we had this idea for this encapsulated piece of knowledge, and we were trying to come up with a word for it, and people said, oh, it should be called a requirement. Someone said it could be a rule, and then some people said it should be this. And it turned out there just was not a good way, a word that was ready at hand, that was pre-populated with the meaning to convey what we wanted. So we had to come up with this word knowledge packet. And one of our early customers told me, there's no way we'll ever use the word knowledge packet in our company. Never happened. Okay? I can tell you for sure that the word knowledge packet and KPAC is used every day in the order of thousands of times at that company. Okay? So it's interesting when we talk about these ideas of vocabulary, and when things start to have useful meanings, it's unstoppable. It's absolutely unstoppable. So here's knowledge packet. And so it may sound like a new term to you, but once you get a hang of it, knowledge packet will be a very useful idea, and the words scary new words won't be that bad.
The knowledge packet, a structured, granular unit of retained know-how, purpose-built to efficiently capture, share, reuse, and provision knowledge. So, what does that mean? Let's dig a bit deeper. Typically, capturing knowledge involves multiple documents in varying types, formats, and levels of quality, all filling a virtual library. Important information becomes buried and duplicated. Finding, sorting, verifying, and reusing this information is neither efficient nor effective. Wouldn't it be better to have knowledge delivered? Well, it can be. To accomplish this, the virtual library must first be broken down into unique and granular concepts. It is these discrete concepts that are useful to the end user. Discrete concepts are best managed directly as knowledge packets. With knowledge packets, precise collections of knowledge from multiple experts can be provisioned to the end user wherever and whenever they are needed. Additionally, the knowledge packet provides a consistent and more powerful means of capturing discrete concepts. How? The knowledge packet unit structure contains subcomponents that each do an important job in knowledge capture. Rich text for human interfacing, smart media and annotations for efficient communication and sharing of ideas, logical models for powerful and complete knowledge capture, enabling knowledge to be active once provisioned, plus systems of classification and tagging for the precise provisioning into the flow of work. In addition to these subcomponents, the unitized and granular knowledge packet format provides for knowledge-specific life cycling, knowledge health monitoring, an activity that the knowledge-aware technique calls knowledge vitality. This helps to keep knowledge fresh. Collectively, these features of knowledge packets result in retained knowledge that is available, relevant, accurate, actionable, active. Here are some examples of knowledge packets. Most importantly, knowledge packets work hand in hand with the assessment control. Together, they enable your process to become knowledge-aware. The assessment control. a comprehensive toolkit used to evaluate, track, and apply collections of knowledge directly within your everyday workflows. Assessment controls may sound complicated, but they are actually quite simple. Typically, companies attempt to store knowledge, and still find it difficult to evaluate, track, and apply their knowledge effectively. Checklists, custom solutions, and human recall are some of the common approaches. Checklists, while useful in simple scenarios, break down quickly as complexity increases. Files frequently become copied, making it less dependable and more difficult for employees to locate required information. Further, checklists are also passive and one-dimensional and provide no depth to link past problems, solutions, and other resources. Custom solutions can automate knowledge use directly within a workflow. However, this approach can result in a dedicated solution that is difficult to maintain, apply broadly, or adapt to new uses. Human recall can be great for experienced employees. However, information can be easily forgotten or become biased. When an employee leaves, knowledge is lost, leaving the remaining team without answers. As you can see, these approaches are neither efficient nor effective. Assessment controls are different. Knowledge packets, provisioned into the assessment control, guarantee that correct knowledge is available and applied within the flow of work. Assessment controls have unique capabilities that get the job done. Look Across allows users to see how the same knowledge was applied within past projects. Requery allows the continuous provisioning of knowledge into an assessment control, guaranteeing the accuracy of content. Detailed Reporting allows end users and executives to access real-time status, reports, and analytics across projects and time. And most importantly, the Rule Processing Engine provides for the automation of knowledge evaluation and deeply connects knowledge into the flow of work. Putting it all together, knowledge packets are provisioned into the assessment control, where they are evaluated and provide real-time decision support and project visibility. The assessment control provides tools that make the application of knowledge both efficient and effective. Assessment controls allow you to perform most any type of knowledge evaluation across the enterprise. Here are some examples of assessment controls. With assessment controls, the application of knowledge is efficient, effective, visible, and continuous. Together, assessment controls and knowledge packets work hand in hand to enable your process to become knowledge-aware.
Okay, I feel like what we've done is we've started off with this aspirational message of intelligence, organizational learning, and effortless recall. And then with these videos, we've attempted to explain how it would happen, and there might be a little bit of a gap still between the two, okay? The fulfillment of those promises by these techniques is real, and now it's the job of the rest of the conference to kind of build the glue between the promise and these techniques to show you that these things are real and they're available to your organizations. Also say these videos are very automotive-centric, but we have reason to believe we are experimenting in non-automotive, even in non-engineering concepts. As a company, Auros Knowledge System is a consulting company and a software company. We rely extensively, exclusively, and to the point of we could not live without it, our own software, right? It runs our software factory, it runs our consulting business. So it's not engineering specific. The last thing I'll say about the videos is they are available and online. So if you're trying to convey to others in your organizations what these concepts are, trust me, I know it can be difficult. That's precisely why we created these videos, and they are absolutely there for you to use. Now, they're also available in Mandarin if you have such a need, and they'll probably be available in a couple other languages, mostly German next. So we're in the process. The last thing I have before I leave you and we move on to the next exercise is there's another technology here that we will be creating a video for that's very important to this. And it's this rule processing engine, because what we all know is that if you had all the knowledge available for you and you're an engineer or technical person, you can get overwhelmed, right? So the process of using that knowledge needs to be efficient, and the rules engine has a lot to do with how that becomes, how an individual is able to process an order of magnitude, maybe 2 orders of magnitude more concepts through rule processing. Okay, that concludes the overview. And are we taking a survey now, Brittany? Is that, I'm sorry? Questions. We have a very limited amount of time, but I think we can take a question if anybody's got any questions or concerns. Okay, let's move on to the survey. So if you go, it's really important because this was a different way of doing it this time. So if you thought it was, not a good way of doing it, do us a favor and tell us you didn't think it was a good way of doing it. So it was intended to give you an overview of the concept, give you the vocabulary of what knowledge-aware engineering is about, and to present some tools that you can use back at your company. So if you go to the main page on the app and you look for the little survey in white and blue blocks towards the bottom, and then there's one line in blue for KAE overview, those words exactly. If you just click that, you'll only be asked 2 questions. And again, this will give you the, also enter you in the drawing for the iWatch. Okay, while you're taking that survey, we're going to transition. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to introduce my colleague, Jeff Harding. Jeff is going to drive us through the interactive exercise that will be painless, I assure you, and a very good way to learn a little bit more about knowledge-aware engineering. Jeff, can you come on up, please?